Okay, it is Tuesday, August the 6th, 2019. And what that means is that we have reached the final lecture, week 6. And we started as of yesterday the final week of this course. And I cautioned you and warned each of you that the course would go very, very, very fast. And that as of midnight on Sunday, the course will be over. No assignments will be accepted after 11:59 p.m. It is a staunch rule here, so I cannot bend it because I don't violate the rules unless I get permission. But I'm telling you right now up front so that you will know this is the very beginning of this lecture that you're listening to, so you can be on notice. Also, you should be aware that I am not accepting assignments weeks 1, 2, or 3. I announced that earlier, but because of the fact that week 4 is the start of the second half of the course. So those of you who have not turned in weeks 1, 2, or 3, you know what the issues are, unless I've already communicated with you and you had some issues and we worked something special out. But I know who those people are. It's not very many of you. And then, so now weeks 4, 5, and 6. And weeks 4, if you submit it, and weeks 5, you're going to lose points. Especially if week 4, because it's over a week late, and technically it should be 0, but I will operate on reasons why. Sometimes students submit assignments very, very late like that, and they don't even submit anything explaining why it's late at all. But I already said from the very beginning of the course that if you had some issues, feel free to reach out to me. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. One thing that I do want to talk about is, well, let me share my screen first. Share my screen. Here we go. And you've seen this information here, so I'm not going to go over that again. And you see, too, that the final lecture is today, week 6. All right. And then the recording will be down here, and I'll email it to you as well. Okay. At this point, okay, I will not go over the other announcements. Let me refresh this now. Okay, so let's look at our week 6 announcement. The media and criminal justice. And you looked at media, technology, and the courts. Open justice or open season, developments in judicial engagement with new media. And then the activity, reality TV, and the criminal justice system. Your discussion posts that are due tonight, initial posts, constitutional rights. Then your reply post is due by Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then your final written assignments, justice, due Sunday, the 11th at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And a reminder that this course officially ends, as I said at the top of this lecture, this Sunday, the 11th, at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time and try to complete the student evaluation. All right. So let's just take a quick look at the course calendar for the final time. And you see this is where we are. Your initial post, your live lecture today, your reply post, your written assignment, and then it tells you that the course, if you clicked on that, you'll see too that it ends as well. So you have all kinds of notices along with your keyword. It also is due at that time, which you'll see right there. Okay, and so that's it. So I do want to say that one of the things in this course that you've learned, before I get into the assignments for this week, is the media in being involved with the criminal justice system. I am saddened this week by, and I talked about this Saturday on my radio show about the shootings in El Paso, and then I found out later about the one in Dayton. I have family in Dayton and friends in Dayton, and it's really sad. And then I found out about one I missed. It was maybe a little over a week ago in California. But we have a problem here with guns. I don't care, Second Amendment or what, there's some real serious issues dealing with guns. And so I want to especially say I appreciate what the media is doing in these cases. As you know, in the case in Dayton, there's not going to be a trial because the individual was killed in the process. But regarding what's happened in El Paso, the media has reported, based upon research and information, that it was a hate crime. The person who did this had what they call a manifesto, which means that on a mission, and that the person, it became clear that the person was out to kill people of Mexican ancestry. Such a sick situation here, and that as a result of that, it became elevated to a hate crime. Now, some people say, well, what about the person having an opportunity to have a trial? Well, this information is going to be made known to the people, and it goes back to what I've been saying almost this whole course, that when something happens, media has a responsibility to keep the people informed about what's going on, because as you should be aware, we've had too many of these type of incidents in the last so many years, and it seems like they've increased, and that hate has increased. The FBI has reported that hate crimes have gone up in the last couple of years, and it seems to coincide with some of the positions that our president has. I'm not talking political, guys. I'm talking factual, and I'm looking at what's going on in this country. And it's very important that our leaders in the country be held accountable for their statements that they make. And you know, as the president came on to say, that this was a person with some mental issues, and people have to understand that when he says that, what he's saying is these people are not in their right mind. Now, from a legal perspective, I've heard some commentators say that that person was not mentally ill because they knew what they were doing. As those of you who have taken criminal law know about insanity and the state of mind and all those things. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about when we say that mentally unstable, that means they perform acts that a normal person would not do. And that's what we're talking about. Forget the scienter or knowledge or mens rea involved here. We're talking about the fact that it's a sick person that plots to kill, and it's a sick person, to be honest with you, who doesn't appreciate the differences that people have. And then there's a sick person who takes a government position and turn it into their own personal vigilante thing as well. So that's problematic, and that guns are getting into the hands of the wrong people. And I'm not even talking about the gangs. In Chicago, we had some shootings that took place, but those were individuals who were shooting at each other, gang members and stuff like that. So that's a different scenario. But when we started to talk about El Paso, and we started to talk about Dayton, and we started to talk about California, and God knows that they've had enough shootings in California as well. San Bernardino some time ago, and then we've had the one in Las Vegas, Mandalay Bay. It's just ridiculous. So the media, as I'm going to say, has the responsibility of sharing that information, which the public has a right to know. I would hate to see the media be censored on providing details about what's going on. Because just think about it. Think about it, people. You and I go to places like this. We're at Walmart that same day, my wife and I. We go to Walmart frequently. We were there yesterday. And if you had a person that decided they wanted to come in and then surveil the place and then get something to eat and then go back out and get weapons, it's a problem. And the person in Dayton killed his own sister as well. So I'm saying that we have a problem. We have a problem. Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, I already going on position when I teach that in constitutional law and in criminal law. What my view of it is based upon a strict interpretation of the intent of the founding fathers with the Second Amendment and guns. But and then Congress itself has its hands tied. There's bipartisan legislation that's waiting to come on to try to at least help. But you got these the head, and I'll call him Senator Mitch McConnell, blocking anything from coming to the floor. It's problematic. But I'm going to tell you people something so you know on the political side, and this is something that is very, very true, is that the NRA has, and the gun people have a lot of these legislators in their pocket. And that's the truth. And if you do any research on it, because I was a political science major, you'll discover that's true. So anyway, wrapping up this course, I had to start out by talking about this because it has to do with the media and realities of crime and justice here in America. So we'll see what happens with that. So let's look at the assignments that we have here. You're going to read this article, Justice Delayed, and after you read the article, you're going to write a 1 to 2 page paper, and then you're going to deal with each of these issues. Notice it says, talks about specifically APA, check for spelling, grammar errors, and so forth, and so on. Students need to understand that I do follow my rubric, and the information that's here is in the rubric. Tells you when it's due. Here is the rubric, and it tells you what you're supposed to do. You get 35 points if you do this, 25 if you do that well, 25 if you do that, and then 5 points there. So that's a total. If you add these all together, that's 90 points, but that's showing you how you can lose points. And then 1 to 2 pages. It doesn't mean a 3/4 of a page. It doesn't mean a half a page. It should be double spaced. There should be citations in the body of the paper throughout. Don't just throw one citation in there, because citations do support your statements, because you will lose points. I've said that over and over and over again, and very important. And then, of course, the citations are in the body, and then the reference page is at the end, and then there should be a properly formatted reference page, which means it should be a separate page. And then sources which are relevant and credible should be used to support your statements. Now, I'll say this from the beginning, is that you want to make sure that you follow all of these points in order to get your 100 points. All right? It's without doubt that I don't have to say this week that if your assignments are late, you're not going to get them graded, because again, as you know, it's due Sunday, and if it's not in by Sunday, and make sure it's double spaced, by the way, Roman 12, that's the font that you should be using. All right. So you want to make sure that you do read the article and run your papers through Grammarly, because I run every paper through Grammarly, and I report to the school any students whose Grammarly percentage is above 25. I usually have given you breaks to 28, but you guys are about to you know, engage in getting a bachelor's degree. At this point, you should be very, very, very proficient at dealing with critical thinking in your papers. All right. So let's go back and let's see what the rest of it says. Of course, your discussion post, and then finally your live lecture comment word that I'm going to give you, or phrase. And that's the assignments. That's the final assignments. So now let's talk about, what is it? Technology and the effect that it's had changed the media role, and then so let's talk about that. So dealing with reality TV, as we are in an age now where True TV, which is on, does the court cases that are live on TV, and then there's so many of those TV type judges. Most of them are not dealing with criminal law, but the fact of the matter is that dealing with the role of the media, and the fact that the internet, every media source posts information on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, but primarily those first two, and so so the public gets that information, and rightfully so, as I said, and then the public then will share that information with individuals and deal with what is going on about newsworthy events. And there's been a lot of information passed around, as I already said, that if you go on social media now, you're bound to see something about the El Paso and the Dayton shootings. And so the media has made that possible to share that with people here in Illinois and across the country. But look at what this study said, that the impact of that information, 67% believe social media has helped solve some crimes quickly. And that's interesting because of the fact that there are instances where there, for example, lost rather missing persons, or either that. But here's the point. Keep in mind again that the media and the information that social media helps solve crimes more quickly provides the impetus again for the public. And unfortunately, there are individuals who will see that, and they will see a crime taking place, and they will do what we call copycat. Now, the media is not responsible for that, but that is part of the issue. But that was even before we had social media, where people would see crimes in the news, read about it in the newspaper, and they would still consider copycats. But look at that high number that believe that social media solve crimes more quickly. I don't know what kind of people or who they asked this. I don't know what their pool of information was, but sometimes you have to consider the sources once you know the pool. 87% of the time, search warrants utilizing social media to establish probable cause to hold up in court when challenged, and 87% of the time, and the point of the matter is that that's a good thing, because that means that there's a high percentage of good search warrants that are out there, and that's a good thing. That means that the number is up. That leaves about 13% that are violating constitutional rights, and the reason why search warrants aren't upheld is because they will violate the Fourth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, but primarily the Fourth Amendment when we're talking about search and seizure and search warrants. So that's a good thing, and I think that that's a good figure. Close to half of the individuals use social media at least weekly. Social media is very big, and there are some people who don't look at it at all. I, of course, use it a lot because of my work, and it's something that I be aware of, whether I am dealing in educating my students, and then also as a pastor of a church, sharing with my congregation the information, and then also, of course, the fact that I have a radio show that is an internet radio program, the God is Able Christian Church Hour, that's heard every Saturday. And those of you who are on Facebook with me have seen that. And so the point of the matter is that a lot of people are using social media frequently. Only 10% of the respondents learn how to use social media for investigations through formal training given at the agency. Yeah, because people learn how to do it by trial and error. I didn't have any formal training. I taught myself how to do it because, as you know, I'm 69 years old, and there was no social media, none of that stuff. Not even World Wide Web existed when I even came out of law school 41 years ago in 1978. So I learned how to do this on my own. Lack of access and familiarity are primary reasons for non-use. 70% are either unable to get social media during work hours or don't have enough background to use. So the point of the matter is that your job might prevent you from using it while you're working. So the conclusion is, rightfully so, that media does affect people's perceptions, and as I said at the top, does provide some necessary important facts that the public have a right to know. And then it says, then how can criminal justice professionals maintain a fair environment to determine a true guilt or innocence of a defendant without the jury pool being tainted? Well, that's again something that I've talked about and I've addressed earlier in this course. As a lawyer, dealing with cases, dealing with a few high-profile cases, dealing with, as I was talked about, the O.J. Simpson case, But all jury trials, the point of the matter is that it would be, because eventually I believe that the individual that committed the crime that's allegedly committed the crime, and we have to use that because it's a legal term. Even if the person is on video and we see them committing the crime, we still have to allegedly say that, because they could have be determined later to be mentally unstable, therefore they will not be guilty by reason of insanity. But so the statement is legal statements, and media does say that. But the point of the matter is that it's a true thing, because we're dealing with human beings. And so the opinions of the media, but you know, there are times when you begin to see things that put the balance out. Do we want to know about what happened? Do we want to know the facts about what happened in those shootings? Yes. Why do we want to know? Because of the fact that is another occurrence that's happening right under our noses. And it could happen anytime, anywhere, any place. Those various people in Dayton, or put it like this, the people in Dayton were looking at possibly what happened in San Antonio, not aware of the fact that it would happen the same day later in their place. And so that could be right here in our own town. I'm in Romeoville, Illinois. And so the point of the matter is that I could be speaking on the air and or doing a lecture, and then close down, and then a bulletin comes across about those kind of things. So the media has a role to play, and so the question is that says the media has influenced what we read and helped solve crimes. Yes, and it has a positive influence. I agree, and that the media, it says that the positive influence outweigh the influence of social media. I think so, because of the fact that the media itself provides information, and they utilize the social media as a source of sharing information across the world about what's happening in their jurisdictions. So there's no doubt about the fact that social media does play a large part in society, and that oftentimes when we voir dire someone in a criminal trial and we are selecting a jury, one of the questions we ask, have you read or heard anything concerning the issues of this case, or what's involved? And generally the answer is yes. And that then the next question is that we ask, and we have to ask it, is will this affect your decision-making authority? Will that neutralize it, so that you have come in here with a prejudged disposition about what happens, regardless of the evidence that's presented? And so the answer for those who do end up on the jury is no. I will remain fair and impartial and base my verdict upon the evidence that's presented during the trial. Now, whether that's true or not, again, that's the best system we can do. We're not allowed to beat people down. We have to use our challenges, peremptory challenges, the number that we're given under the law, to excuse a person if we have a feeling that they're not telling us the truth or not being honest with us. So therefore, we then would go forth and seek to have them excluded. And as I've shared before, that you can use a peremptory challenge for any reason at all to excuse a person from the jury, except on the basis of their race and or sex. So it's with the World Wide Web, social media, it says, is so popular that it's a question to ponder. Yeah, there's going to be conversations forever about that. And the fact that we have as I said, now more cases going on television, court TV, which everybody is almost familiar with, and individuals see. But remember, court TV does not affect the trial. Pre-trial media is what we are talking about here, because, as I said, the O.J. Simpson case was one of the most widely broadcast court cases on a daily basis, so much that I was able, like I was in the courtroom, and like those who sat down. Now, unfortunately, many people, what they did, they heard parts of it, they didn't hear the whole thing. I did. I listened to it every day and recorded it and went back and looked at it, because as if I was in the trial itself. But the public itself doesn't really have the time to do that. And so my point being is that, so the opinions, but the opinion of those who are in the box, we call it 12 in the box, which is the jury, they will be the ones who will hear the whole thing. And then they will be the ones who are allowed to make their decision based upon what they believe is the evidence. And there have been some individuals who got on juries for not telling the truth, but it's the best system that we have. Best system we have. I think we have the best in the world. So we conclude here by dealing with the relationship between the media and criminal justice policies. It says many individuals are captivated by crime in our criminal justice system. That may be true, but again, I appreciate the media utilizing, providing accurate information. And remember what I said before, that the information that the media gets generally comes as a result of the PIO providing statements to them and or their own direct observations of what they see. And now, because of the fact that we have cameras now, then the media, through FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request, can get the videos and utilize those and see for themselves and share information to the public. And so it gives you a better perception of being able to see what the camera sees itself. So, and so it says most of the public's knowledge is a result of the media issues and concerns with crime trends and offenses within the jurisdiction related to the police that serve and protect that jurisdiction. And that's accurate. That's accurate. The relationship found between the media's portrayal of the police are how they are perceived in the public eye differs. Well, again, remember what I said earlier, with the advent of cameras involved, the public is able to see the actions of law enforcement or police. As we learned from the Laquan McDonald case, what changed the written reports and what really happened was the dash cam that was not the public dash cam or somebody's video camera, but the dash cam of the police car that was involved. And also, there are many crimes, as you and I both know now, because they have the body cams. And body cameras record information about things as to giving the public and the individuals who have to determine, well, did the police act properly, and protects the public in terms of the action, but it also protects the police officers as well. As I've said to many students that I had, I like the fact that we have body cameras. Besides, what is it that you're trying to cover up? It could exonerate you as a police officer. And then, you know, they got fiction and television. Like, for example, I got a student who he loves to watch um, Chicago PD, and he talks to me about Chicago PD, and I've looked at Chicago PD a couple of times, and I can tell you that yes, that's the kind of things that Chicago PD, but the PD all across the country are dealing with the violence, they're dealing with drugs and things of that nature. But you got to remember when you see these TV programs that these TV programs are sensationalized for entertainment sources as well. Uh, True reporting of the actions of police should be reported the same way as these cameras capture them, and then people can draw their conclusions based upon what the cameras themselves present. So some shows that says perceive police as heroes, and others show police as a negative, as negative, corrupt. Well, that's because of the fact that unfortunately both of these are true in reality. I would say in terms of CPD, where I spent my entire life in the area, that you have both sides. You have corrupt police officers as well as heroes that are police officers that are involved. So what some of these shows unfortunately do is they put in the minds of people some of the things. However, I think that in reality the public recognizes that these TV shows are partial entertainment, and the news media should not be for entertainment but should be for providing information concerning the facts or what really happened. So the police and the media do have a favorable relationship with each other. As I said before, the media shares what the PIO gives them, or the person that is designated, the chief of police might make a statement, and they have press conferences now. There are open press conferences where the media is able to come together in the with the authorities to ask questions and gather information, and they can clarify those by further questioning, and the PIO will provide the information. Oftentimes, though, you will hear the statement made when asked a question is that we cannot release the answer to your question at this time because they don't want to adversely affect the investigation as it's continuing. So so then what unfortunately happens sometimes is some irresponsible media people will rush to judgment based upon taking that statement out of context. So that's reality in this world, period, with communication with people anyway. It says the police are dependent on the media to get valuable information out to the public. And oftentimes, that's what the media is doing, which benefits and helps police work in terms of seeking to solve crimes, find missing persons, and to get help to point the police in the right direction to being able to find individuals. So bringing the right person or persons to justice. And then it says finally that the media are dependent on the police to provide them with the up-to-the-minute information on an active crime or event, and that's what I said that the role of the PIO is. So anyway, you have learned in this course something that you probably already knew, and you've expressed some positions. The fact that the media is going to always play a role in the criminal justice system, and the fact that we have the issue that's still going to be determined is a balance between the First Amendment right of the press and the freedom of speech of the press and the rights of individuals to a fair trial on a constitutional level. And so there's going to be continuous discussion about that, and so forth. I will say this as I talk about media technology and the courts. Again, with court TV coming on now, with cameras being allowed in the courtroom, it allows more people to see what is going on in the courtroom, which, as I say, kind of, how should I say, provides another perspective along with what the media reported before them. Because remember, the media doesn't report they report what goes on in the courtroom in the media, but if you are able to see the trial itself, in just like the O.J. Simpson case, you can see things that the trier of fact saw and see why the results came out. I've already gone on record as saying the O.J. Simpson case could have gone differently if the police had done their jobs in a proper fashion. But I've said that many a times about other cases that I've had, and I've shared some examples throughout the classes that you've taken with me, where I've been able to take advantage as a defense attorney of unprofessionalism that law enforcement or police would engage in. And so the point of the matter is that the media has the ability to be able to provide details about what happens, and you can then draw a conclusion yourself. Remember one thing about your conclusions outside that don't affect that trial in that courtroom. Those 12 in the box are the ones who do that. Now, there may be some issues with judges themselves, because judges, I remember, are lawyers. That is why we have been trained as lawyers, trial lawyers, to prefer what we call 12 in the box, and take the average individual and to allow them to be able to hear the facts about as presented. And then we try to filter out who we don't want on the jury. As I said, yours truly just recently received a questionnaire, and I answered those questions, and I provided everything that I know about myself to help them. And then they sent me back a response about a week later saying, we're not going to we're excusing you from jury duty. Yeah, I know why. They don't want people like me in there. Well, first of all, number one, I have too much knowledge about how the system works, period, and that I have worked it in all aspects, and now I teach it. I'm dangerous, and I could sway individuals, and it would probably end up being the foreperson that would be selected in a jury trial, and both sides might have problems. I think especially the prosecution, because most of my stuff was defense, but also based upon my personal experiences, the defense might feel uncomfortable because I've been the victim of, the violence of my parents and my adopted parents and those kinds of things. So anyway, and then if it's a case involving a drug dealer, I might have some problems because I told you about, I shared with you my baby sister overdosed from drugs in '94. And so the bottom line is that they use those kind of situations to try to eliminate people that would possibly be biased. I think I could be open-minded, but probably take away from the ability of some other individuals. They might lean and depend too much on my position, and we don't want that. So anyway, so with the jury system, I think it's still intact. The media has not adversely affected that, and so with that, I'm going to end this course by sharing with you. Thank you for these last 6 weeks. Hope that many of you will continue to do well and move forward. I will maybe see some of you in some of the other classes, because I do occasionally teach other classes in the bachelor program. I've taught constitutional law and some of the other courses. I could teach any of the courses that they have, most of them anyway. And so I will run across you. And then I've said to you, and I got a student who just sent me a request that she wants me to provide her with a recommendation, and I say that all the time. I'm willing to do that to help my students. Those of you who didn't, who had trouble struggling with the project, I will only say this to you, that I caution every student during week 1 to get on it right away. And some students have said they've sent out emails and stuff. If I'm going to do something like that, I'd send out emails and I call, and that's the way I operate. Emails and call. I lean more heavily on calling people to talk to them about setting up things, and then I set up a backup, because there are busy schedules. And then there are students who are, they say they're working and they can't do it. I was one who worked my way through school, and I had to do projects where I had to go to court during the day to deal with projects that I had to do. And what I would do is just take my vacation days or time. And so some of the same things, the deal is that you have to, first of all, understand that you're dealing with individuals who are very busy, but are willing to share information with you. And then there are schools of journalism that you can reach out to, and they will tell you how they get the sources. But I can tell you quickly that every law school I know is willing to help students in undergrad to find information out with agencies and organizations in these kind of cases. I think that was a good project that they put together. It wasn't strenuous. You just had to put together some questions. You were given some questions. You get some comments and responses from those individuals with those questions, like any other reporter, and you want to make sure that you get them done timely. So I got at least one student that said that their work arrangement doesn't allow them to do it. So I told them there's no alternative assignment that I can give in a situation like this, because it's still going to involve you having to get these questions answered by a PIO, and you're going to also have to deal with the news media people as well. So, and that's the title of this course, Realities of Crime and Justice. And so what I want to do is I want to give you a phrase, again, and that is social media. That's what I want. And you get that to me by Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, I'm available. You know how to reach out to me. And I wish you the best and look forward to seeing you do great things in further courses, and hope to run across you guys again. With that, I'm going to say good night.